Globe takes this opportunity that we can share how we can contribute to nation building through integrating green initiatives and sustainability in our operations. So the slide following this one, the next slide, please, just shows what Globe is. No, let's get something out of the way, and I want to start telling everyone that Globe now is not just a telecommunications company. We are actually a digital solutions platform, a tech co, if you will, with a technology company with business interests in telco, in health, in fintech, in entertainment, manpower, IT, digital advertising. In a lot of ways, one of our core principles is that to be able really to contribute to nation building, one has to endeavor exploring other industry channels by which you can facilitate that. The next slide will show you what Globe's purpose is. Now, our purpose, the Globe purpose, is in everything that we do, we treat people right to create a globe of good. Sustainability is our purpose in action. We work in three principal ways, essentially. First, we operate responsibly. We align with our ESG. We align with ESG practices and frameworks. Second, we create positive environmental and societal impact. And third, we advocate ESG adoption. So with this in mind, the practice allows us to create more opportunities for sustainable development while addressing our own material issues. No? Some may say ESG, well, it's a thing nowadays, uso yan eh. It's hip, di ba? Parang every organization is starting to say that, hey, we are responsible for the environment, for society and everything. But it's not about just being uso, or it's a fad, or it's a thing for enterprises to take on. It's about doing what is right, no? Making sustainability at the core of your purpose as an organization. And if that's your core, then it will help you make the choices you need to make to run the business and to run the operations. Which brings us to the next slide, which is energy management in Globe. Now, when we started the journey way back in 2000, looking at this slide, it's actually even way before 2008, around 2003, when we started looking at environmental management and safety management. When we looked at our aspects and impacts assessment, what scores high on the list was really energy consumption. Because our footprint, our geographical footprint is that, diba? We operate in a lot of regions. Ergo, there is a need for energy monitoring, energy efficiency, conservation, and inevitably exploring alternative sources of energy, meaning not just your coal, your fossil fuels, right? This was the indisputable starting point, so to speak, in our energy management journey and how we can push our climate agenda. So we started, of course, I think it was mentioned earlier then, no, by Arthur Land. It's, of course, GHG accounting, diba? What are your greenhouse gases emissions? Do you report it? What is the extent of it? How do you measure it? Then we acquired LEED Gold certification for our HQ. We started deploying green network solution. Fast forward to 2018, we were already streamlining our operations and management systems. By 2019, we have already acquired ISO certification for environment, for an integrated management system, while shifting our Globe HQ in BGC to renewable energy. By 2022, we have actually shifted a total of 26 sites to a combination of ARCOA, the Retail Competition Open Access, as mentioned, and GEOP. No? We talk about ARCOA because we leveraged ARCOA at that time when we still didn't have GEOP. How can we tap on the benefits of ARCOA and push our sustainability action? That is partnering with suppliers that have renewable energy as their supply. Which brings us to the next slide, how we harness RE to regulatory policies. So the first thing is that we understood what ARCOA is and what GEOP was, diba? And what GEOP is. It started last year. ARCOA started 2013. When we first started ARCOA, we still didn't have a criteria that really gave a lot of weight for renewable energy. But when we looked at it and said, hey, we can actually start having conversations with partners and push our requirement for renewable energy. At that time, I think, as was mentioned, GEOP was not yet implemented. So we said, what if it's a criteria for engagement when we push our power purchase agreements? And that's why we were able to shift 14 of our sites under our COA to renewable energy. Now, what's the impact to operations? I think it was kind of mentioned earlier. Straight up, you have at least 10% savings versus BU all-in cost. No? There are, of course, some play on how long the period of contract will be and how much supply there will be. And that's, of course, the continuous challenge. But at the very least, I think one of the main things that was discussed earlier in one of the talks is that you have a choice now. You have a choice where you will get your power source or energy source. And our choice as an organization is, let's push those partners that can help us with our renewable energy goals. Now, the business benefits, of course, as mentioned, along with the possible savings, or I think I would rather say cost avoidance, we are aligned with our targets for sustainability and the net zero carbon by 2050. Now, it also brings about employee awareness, and we influence our vendors, the people, the companies you work with, to go green also. I mean, if they want to continue partnership or long-term partnership with our organization, then they would have to be aligned with our own sustainability goals. There are challenges, as was mentioned earlier. There is a supply and demand play, of course, but as long as there is a conversation, I believe, and discussions like this, the private sector, the public sector actually sitting down together and talking about how we can hurdle these obstacles, then I think it's something that every one of us can actually, it's within reach whether or not we can attain our sustainability targets. The next slide now will give a snapshot of our roadmap towards zero. It's now 2023. Despite the fact that we feel we've done a lot, because the journey to RE and sustainability is a constant uphill climb. We know that we have a lot to do moving forward to at least scratch more than the surface of what we need to do for sustainable action. So for Globe, it has to start with understanding our operations. We looked at it and we saw that there are two types of energy drivers for our organization. There's the network and there's the non-network. Network would be about your cell sites, your data centers, your core facilities, while non-network will be your corporate offices and your mixed use. So the strategy really is operationalizing carbon emissions reduction from energy use through energy efficiency, through conservation, and through renewable energy or power purchase agreements. As mentioned earlier, we leveraged on our COA and GEOP. Now, at that time, and I think that was also mentioned, there were certain requirements before you can actually sign up or do that setup. For our COA, that's 500 kilowatt and above. For GEOP, it was 100 kilowatts. So it was really the challenge of making sure that we can set greater weight in our criteria for power purchase agreements and identify partners who can provide us or help us with our renewable energy goals. Of course, this will have to be partnered with demand management. And when you say demand management, it means looking at your operational implementation and how you can make sure you're efficient in energy use. You're not actually throwing away, or there's not a lot of wastage in terms of how you use your energy. The next slide will show you what other solutions we have in play to complement what we are, the efforts that we are, implementing or engaging with for renewable energy. We had to look at our own network, our productivity, our innovations of equipment and upgrade to see if there are reduction of energy that we can look at, as simple as an upgrade of equipment terminals in our equipment on site, in our antennas. And as you see here, it ranges between 30 to 70% in terms of more energy efficient equipment. The next slide will extend to what alternative sources are we looking at. We do proof of concepts for solar hybrid gensets, how we monitor our energy across our sites, looking at energy storage systems and how our cooling systems are running more efficiently. If there is an old system for cooling, how we can change it out to replace it with more energy efficient cooling systems. Now, the next slide shows our non-corporate solutions and how we push in our corporate sites, in our HQ, how we can have improvements to systems, and whether it's improving variable motor speed drives or pumps or AHUs, or having a cloud-based energy monitoring system to look at our own energy consumption. We look at all of these small things that can at least contribute to how we can shift to a greener and more sustainable operations. We actually just recently launched our employee shuttle, which is an electric vehicle tied up with GEOP, the Comet bus. You can see it here, the EV employee shuttle. This was just launched early this year, and it sends the message even to our employees that the organization is serious about our own sustainability goals. I think we're nearing the end of our presentation. Just a couple of more slides. The next slide will essentially sum it up. I mean, what are the key learnings in way forward in our own experience running our sustainability agenda and exploring solutions such as ARCO or GEOP or direct sources in our sites. So we really see it as a 3-point strategy. We align, we engage, and we innovate. We align with global best practices. We engage the relevant stakeholders, whether it's DOE, ERC, Aboitiz Power, AC Energy, all of the other government units and customers that can help us. And we innovate in terms of how we operate our own facilities, our own business across the different sites. Now, the idea is you don't have to do all solutions, right? But you can consider and explore anything that comes your way, anything that's related to how you can be more sustainable in your operations. That's actually two of our most favorite words, really. Consider and explore. Because if you consider and explore, you actually open yourself to possibilities. Take the case of climate. We were expanding Globe's ecosystem of businesses as shown earlier. We're now looking at climate tech. What can we push to the consumer that will help them combat climate change? And from our perspective, one way is to start looking at electric vehicles, whether these are motorbikes or 4-wheel electric vehicles. These are things that we can support. So that essentially ends what we wanted to share. The next slide shows our ESG ratings. Not that we're bragging, but it's one way to measure ourselves. You know, I mean, as an organization, you have to measure whether or not those programs that you're implementing are aligned with how the industry actually looks at your organization as a sustainability-driven organization. And I guess that kind of leads to one corner here when just this year we were awarded the most sustainability-driven mobile network operator and the favorite choice of consumers. We're confident enough to say that we haven't reached our goal, but we do know that most of the things that we have in place may help us, get to that goal a bit much faster than what we believe we can, even with the challenges. The last slide is just a showing of where you can contact us and our CEO.